Let's just take a minute in silence. Here with this image of Our Lady, St. John Nepomucene, our patron, who was a martyr, St. Therese, St. Joseph, St. John Methodius. Just take a moment of silence and prayer, just asking for all their intercession before Jesus. Now you've witnessed a miracle. No one's ever seen me quiet that long. I'm going to ask a couple gentlemen to come up here. Two brothers, Robert and John Beechrel. They're going to share with you. These two gentlemen I met in June. I don't think I'd ever heard of them or met them. They're from here, from Dallas. I met them in June with Father John Anthony. And they encouraged this craziness, prayed for me. They became part of this vision I had of y'all being here with the statue here and Father Leon being here. Sorry, Neil, I didn't know who you then. And Liam. But they became part of that in a very real way. And so they're going to say something.
Well, thank you, Father. Part of my penance is that we have to follow Father Leon. I mean, what a great talk. John and I are from Dallas. When you put that in Croatian Franciscan terms, that's 2 rosaries to the north. We grew up as Episcopalian. We had loving parents, wonderful siblings. However, I was not very religious. And in 1991, I was 26 years old. And I noticed a change in one of my coworkers. His name's Jeff Reed. And I studied him for several months. He had a piece about him that was incredibly appealing, and I wanted the same thing. He gave me a book on Medjugorje. After reading it, I didn't know what to think about it. So I gave it to my most trusted best friend, John Anthony. We talked on the phone about it, and we both decided that if the Mother of God is appearing in our time, we should go find out for ourselves and see if it's true. 7 months later, John Anthony and I find ourselves on a flight to Sarajevo on our way to Medjugorje, and Jeff was with us and a group of West Texas and Kansas folks as well. You remember, John and I are both Protestants. Seeing Jesus' body on the cross made me uneasy at this point in my life. We had never prayed a Hail Mary. We didn't own a rosary. In Father's event, we were not aware of what the term pilgrimage meant. But we were about to find out. Due to bad weather, our flight gets diverted to Belgrade, and that's the communist capital of Serbia. It was determined that we were going to have to leave the airport because all the flights to Sarajevo had been canceled that night. Our group we had a humanitarian bent to it. We were carrying medicines to take to a hospital in Bosnia. And on exiting the airport, my bag got flagged due to the powdered antibiotics that I had inadvertently smuggled into Serbia. While detained in a holding cell and trying to explain to my newly appointed detention officer, who only spoke Serbian, that the white powder in my suitcase was indeed medicine being delivered to the hospital in Mostar, I was making no progress. However, I could stand on my tippy toes and look out a small window outside the cell, and I could see my new faith-filled fellow pilgrims working their rosary beads over in fervent prayer. Within a couple of minutes, the phone rang, and the officer answered it. I could hear a female voice giving instructions. The guard hung up the phone, motioned for me to pack my bag up and he opened the cell door and he freed me. The next day, Jeff and John secured a bus to drive us to Medjugorje. We were more than happy to escape the bleak, polluted communist capital that seemed enveloped in evil. At the border crossing into Bosnia, Serbian soldiers boarded our bus, and evidently they thought I looked like a Serbian military defector. They pulled me off the bus at gunpoint. Again, I glanced up to the bus. I can see and hear my fellow pilgrims begin praying the rosary. I produced my passport. I answered some questions. The guns turned down. I was allowed to get back on the bus. Now, I'm not a smart man, but even I was catching on that bad stuff happens. Pull out the beads. Ask the Mother of God for help. Things get better. It was after midnight by the time our bus pulled into Medjugorje. We were all incredibly tired and beat up, but there was a tangible, supernatural feeling of peace. The beginning leg of our pilgrimage created a fertile ground for two young non-Catholic Texans. In hindsight, I realized we participated in a mini Catholic boot camp. We learned to pray the rosary. We witnessed how God wanted his church on earth to operate. We participated and celebrated and worshiped Jesus. And after returning home, John Anthony and I followed Jeff into the Catholic Church as quickly as we could. The simple message of prayer, fasting, confession, Holy Scriptures, and the Eucharist has made a profound impact on our lives. It has made me a much better husband and father and grandfather. However, some prayers take time to be answered. My mother was very prayerful, a very prayerful woman, as was John Anthony's and Jeff's. I believe Our Lady answered our mother's prayers, their years of prayers for their sons, and used Medjugorje to put us all on the right path. The lesson of Medjugorje is to utilize the church's sacraments to the fullest, to stay in a state of grace and pray the rosary. Our Lady will get her son to answer. Sometimes it occurs immediately. Sometimes it takes years. But God does not let prayer go to waste. They help all humanity. He answers you in his perfect time. Thank you and God bless.
Well, Robert's taller and grayer, but he's still my little brother. Younger brother, really. So as Robert said, we were not raised Catholic, but we had a very prayerful mother and prayerful grandmothers, and little did they know that their Protestant prayers would lead two of us to converting to the true church. So my conversion started, really, I married a cradle Catholic, a wonderful woman named Mary. And after, we've been married almost 43 years. After 15 years and 5 children, I finally converted. And right after that, Robert converted. And his conversion came very different than mine. But I observed Robert. He had this devotion to Mary, devotion that I didn't understand, and watched him for many years with that. And my wife had a devotion to Mary. I never understood it until Father John Anthony over here, who, again, Robert's good friend. In fact, our fathers were good friends. That's how far back we go. But Father John Anthony was blessing a house of ours. And after he blessed it, he set us down and he told us how the rosary is the second most powerful weapon that we have next to the Eucharist. And that really hit me hard. I heard him say it several times, and it really sunk in. And I got to wondering, why is the rosary so powerful? Well, you can look at the wedding in Cana, and you can look at Mary asking Jesus to perform a miracle, and what does Jesus say? It is not my time. And she tells the servants, do whatever he says. And he performs a miracle in obedience to his mother. So they're both up in heaven now. And you got to believe that Jesus is still being obedient and doing as his mother asks. So shortly after that, Robert invited me to join a rosary group that he had been going for quite a while. And Jeff reads part of it. We get some Franciscan priests to join us occasionally. It's a Zoom deal because we got people from all over different time zones and different parts of the world on this rosary. And it's really been a blessing to me. And anyway, it led, Father John Anthony decided this rosary group needed to go to Medjugorje. So this last June, some of us in the group went, some of our wives, Father John Anthony and 2 other Franciscans, and Father John Dick came. Father John Dick, it was his second trip. This was my first trip. John Anthony and Robert, they'd been over there before several times. So anyway, it was a great group of people. We broke a lot of bread, and actually we had quite a few bowls of ice cream. And seeing Medjugorje was really a great experience. Seeing the number of pilgrims coming in daily on buses, seeing the number of people participating in Mass, there are thousands of them every day, sometimes 10,000 people receiving Mass at the same time. It takes hundreds of priests to do all that. Seeing 40 or so priests sitting and hearing confessions all outside the church with little lines to each one of them. It's just amazing to see all those things, to hear the stories of conversions, to hear healings and miracles. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience. So I guess the other thing that happened to me there was I learned about this parish and the horrific things that happened here years ago. It's a beautiful, vibrant parish now. I'm amazed how vibrant it is. But while I was in Medjugorje, Father John Dick and Father John Anthony, and I think Father Leon, were talking about bringing Medjugorje here. And also maybe even bringing back the school here. So I heard about that and I got excited about it. Well, and why did I get so excited about it? Well, because it's a way to redeem things, and it's a way to fight back, to fight Satan. And we are fighters, aren't we, Neil? By nature, men, we are fighters, and we need something to fight. And so it excited me to think about doing this, bringing the school here. And we have the Dominican sisters here. They're in the business of teaching. Anyway, there's lots of things that have to come together. But I think it's a possibility, and I have a hope for it, and I hope you do have a hope for it. So in closing, I'd like to say what Mary said at the wedding of Cana. When she told, it's the same message she is giving now in Medjugorje. Do as Jesus says. That's what she said then. That's what she's saying now. God bless.
Thank you, gentlemen. They're good, aren't they? You know, that's one thing you experience when you start being with people that have been to Medjugorje is the way they talk about it. the way all of a sudden they're sure about miracles, the way it becomes, this is the way it is. It's that gift of a sure and certain faith that this is the way it is. There are no questions.